I grew up on a big cattle ranch in the high desert country of Oregon. A lot of folks maybe don't realize that Oregon is really diverse. It's divided into 1/3 that most everybody hears about on the west side of the Cascades. But I grew up on the east side where we used to pray for rain. My grandfather homesteaded. He rode horseback and whatever from Indiana and went out to Oregon and homesteaded, and he ended up in probably the most desolate part of the state that he could. I often ask him, why in the heck did you end up here with all this beautiful land in Oregon? He said by the time he got there, all the good land was taken. But anyway, my grandfather, uncle, and dad all had consecutive ranches in about 10,000 acres or so. So I grew up on a big cattle ranch, and I rode horses to school uphill both ways, as my kids hate to hear. But I did. I went to a one-room schoolhouse with outdoor privies for boys and girls. We were segregated even in those days.
Wow.
And I think one of the old privies is still standing anyway. From there, I went to high school down in Portland. And like a lot of young kids, maybe began to go astray a bit. And about the third time I came up in front of a judge, he said, son, you're going in the wrong direction. You have two choices, and both of them are the military. The other choice is jail. So anyway, I went in the Navy at age 17 on a little program in the old days they called a kiddie cruise. And you went in before you were 18, got out before you were 21. And although I probably wasn't the best sailor in the world, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I grew up a little bit. I got the GI Bill. I picked a subject that I knew absolutely nothing about, which was electronics. So I was electronic tech in the Navy, and then got out and got a double E degree. Actually, ultimately down in Miami. I've been to 8 colleges and kicked out all of them. But I finally graduated from the University of Miami. This saddle was made for my grandfather when he was a young man in a little town in Oregon called the Dalles, which is on the Columbia River. And both my mother and uncle rode this saddle. And this was made for my grandfather in 1907. So it's one of my more prouder displays down here at the winery as well.
And it's very ornate with all the detail on the top.
Probably was, you know, in those days the saddles were workman saddles. You know, I've got several show saddles and parade saddles in here that are a little bit more ornate with silver and that sort of thing on. But these were working man saddles, so they you know played with them a little bit, but certainly not. You know, they were primarily for functional.
Did you ever have the chance to ride in this saddle?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yet I will tell you, it's a little hard and it's a little deep-seated. I have other saddles that I prefer to ride in, but I think just being able to set my fanny down where my family did is kind of fun as well. Mm-hmm. What brought me out here, though, was that after I got out of a 2-year engineering school in Oregon, after getting out of the Navy, I was recruited for a government position. So I came across in 1963 in a 57 Ford, exactly like the one I've got outside. Of course, no credit cards, no GPS, no interstate. I had $100 in my pocket. That was all the money I had. I figured later that it cost me $65 in gas to come across, so I had a whole $35 for breakdown and food and whatever. My very first car was a 1949 Mercury.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
If you ever saw, was it Blackboard Jungle? I think it might have been Blackboard Jungle, but anyway, they had a 49 Merc. They were racing. One of the guys had a leather jacket on, and he got part of his leather jacket caught in the door, and he actually ran off the cliff. So anyway, I had a 49 Merc anyway. So that was my first. I bought that 49 Merc for $300, and I worked all summer long at my old man's ranch, earning enough money to buy my first vehicle. So this was the second. Of course, I didn't have any for quite a while. I think I told you earlier that I kind of ran into some difficulty in my youth, and I ended up, I think at one time I had 21 tickets before I was 17, lost my driver's license 3 times, and so I didn't have cars.
So
for a while,
was all this in the Mercury that you were talking about?
It was in the Merc, yeah, because by the time I got in the Navy, and then bought this, I'd maybe begun to grow up just a little bit.
See, I feel like you need to get one of those and put it right next to it and have it as like a shrine.
I got to have a 49 Merc. Yeah. Absolutely.
Does she have a name?
The car does not have a name. Thank you for asking. Remember what I told you about my horses?
Yes.
I'm still waiting for it to speak to me after 50 years.
Wow.
You got a good name?
I don't know. My first car was Stella, and she lived up to her name, broken down on the side of the road with me screaming, Stella!
What about the Mercury? Did you name your Mercury?
No. No, we I don't know. Guys didn't come up with names for their cars, but they're you know, I'll tell you, in my day, car was more than just a car. It was, well, it was a whole lot of things, some of which we probably can't talk about on camera, but you know, it was your way to escape. I mean, as a guy that got you out, and of course you might put a whole buck in it. You know, because that's about all the money you had. That might get you about 4 gallons of gas. So, Linda and I ran out of gas a lot. Sometimes on purpose.
She sounds like a true trooper. Absolutely.
Well, talk to her about me taking her to Africa, and so yeah, she's followed me around some places sometimes. Yeah. Remember the story about the one wine that's called Unhitched? Yeah. All right. There's a reason that it's named. Okay.
Now. Dice in the mirror. Is that how it was originally?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is an exact replica. You know, I mean, of course, it is a 57 Ford, right. But I mean, same color, same interior, same engine, stick shift, overdrive. You had to have dice in those days. I even got little dice on my. You know,
oh, I didn't even notice these down here.
Yeah, got them on my tires as well. So that was the end thing in those days.
Oh,
and
that's great.
As well, you might look in the back.
Well, I was going to ask you about this.
Well,
this
some
back
octopuses.
here.
And
yeah.
Your girlfriends always had to make you the octopuses. And again, I don't know why they were so popular in those days, but clearly I had to have a purple octopus like I had.
Did Linda end up making these for you?
Well, I'm going to at least say that.
It sounds good. That sounds good.
There might have been,
I know I'm going to get him in trouble.
Well, there might have been more than one girlfriend, you know. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've had one.
That's pretty good. Oh, man.
Anyway, got here in '63 and went to work for the federal government, and then spent the next 31 years bopping around the world a bit and going to various schools, as I said. Finally ended up retiring 20 years ago this year.
Wow,
from that job. And I then went back to my roots. Here I am rambling on, but went back to my roots, and I started a horse and cattle ranch. It's still a horse ranch. Became a breeder. I guess they now call me a natural horse trainer, and that 25 cents might get you a cup of coffee, but I'm a trainer, usually a trainer of horses that break people up a little bit. Sometimes they break me up. Over the course of my breeding program, I made a breeding DVD, which is, I'm told anyway, probably the most comprehensive breeding DVD out on the market. It's 4 hours. I start off trying to talk folks out of the endeavor. Because so many people get in and don't know what the heck they're doing. You know, they're not prepared. They're not prepared financially. They're not qualified. They don't have the space. You know, they end up with this little baby that nuzzles them, and isn't it cute for them to jump up on their shoulders? Pretty soon it's a 1,000-pound horse jumping up on them, you know, and then they find out what, you know, what their lack of training program was. So anyway, I made this, I'm kind of one of those, I don't know, driven guys, I guess, and I wanted to learn more about the whole horse breeding program, and so I put together this breeding DVD that takes people right from the conception, truly, in more ways than one. I've got 2 live births on the film, and training the young baby and weaning the young baby and halter training and all that. Sell it all over the world. And I guess that wasn't enough for me. I planted grapes about 10 years ago and began to make wine just for the family, as I had made for probably some 45, 50 years or whatever. When I grew up on the ranch, if you wanted If you wanted beef, you raised it. If you wanted a garden, you raised it. And if you wanted beer and wine, you made it. My mom was the maker, and she made awful stuff. And, I followed in her footsteps, and I made awful stuff, you know, out of oak leaf and dandelions and rocks. And then one time I said, grapes? God, you think we ought to maybe try grapes? So anyway, I made...
It's a lot softer than rocks.
Yeah, well, it is. But you can, you know, you can add sugar and water, and you can make wine out of anything. So,
okay.
you know, it doesn't really matter. But I made wine all over the world. Even in Greece. We lived in Greece for 3 years, and you would think that at one of the heart of wine civilization that they would have made great wine, but they actually made awful wine.
Really?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. I wanted to make wine there one time, and through the interpreters in the embassy, we found a vineyard down in the Peloponnese, which is a couple hours from Athens. Of course, you're not speaking the language very well, and the traffic in Athens is pretty wild. So, loaded up the family in my truck, and off we go, and I finally find this place. I very specifically had asked for red wine, or red grapes anyway, because I wanted to make red wine. Anyway, we ended up down there, and all they had was white. I was, okay, somewhat incensed after all that effort and whatever. So the Greeks have a word, and it's called dendriazi. And it kind of means, it'll be okay, never mind, whatever. So one of them said to me, dendriazi, just add food color. So that, you know, that gave you an example of what kind of wine that they were.
That's pretty telling.
Yeah. So anyway, I planted my grapes here 10 years ago and began to make wine for the family, and then planted some more, and that hobby got out of hand, and it looks like you've got one of those that's happening with your recording efforts.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So there's a legal limit of how much you can make for the family, and I then began to exceed that, and so I sold grapes for a while to a local winery down the road, and of course there's no money in that. And I said, I'm losing money in the horse business. I might as well lose some more and start a winery. So that's what I did.
We should be friends.
Yeah. Yeah. The namesake of our name here at the winery is called Desert Rose, and it's both a flower, but it's also a rock formation, and these come from Saudi Arabia, and this is called a desert rose flower from Saudi Arabia. I understand they weren't supposed to leave the kingdom, but something happened. They must have got stuffed in my luggage inadvertently or something, I guess. You go to a lot of wineries and they talk in some really convoluted language about, you know, don't you taste leather or tobacco? You know, I don't smoke. Why do I want to taste, you know, leather or tobacco in my wines, or I don't know, the essence of guava in limestone, or I don't know where they get all these things. But we got a saying here that shouldn't it just taste like grapes? So that's, you come into here and you get, you know, I think kind of a low-key, I hope, fun atmosphere, and we poke a little fun at ourselves and a little fun at the industry, and we start with our names. But the names have got to be meaningful. And one of the things I learned from the Bedouins in the desert about breeding horses is that they never pre-name their foals. They say the babies have got to be born, and then the baby's got to talk to them. It's got to, you know, tell them their personality or their markings or whatever, and that's how they name their babies. Well, I did the same thing in my horse breeding, but I then did the same thing in my wines as well. They had to, to me, they had to have a story other than just the wine. I mean, the wine is a wine, okay? So we started off with our very first wine, which is a white Chardonnay that we called Hitch Hollow. Hitch Hollow was a community on our property dating back to the late 1800s, and it was, as a standard, like a lot of those little communities, it had a little wayside inn and a farrier and so on. And I say that I like to kind of commemorate and honor those folks who trumped my land before I did, and you know, maybe we'll leave a little bit of land for somebody else to trump. So this is our Hitch Hollow Chardonnay, 100% Chardonnay that I aged in French oak. I don't do everything in French oak. I kind of wait for kind of a specific one that is age-worthy and one that has some good fruit. My French oak barrels can cost me about $1,100 or so a barrel, and that's versus $400 to $600 for American or Hungarian. So you kind of want to save your your better wines for the French oak that are age worthy enough. So we're starting off with our Hitch Hollow Chardonnay.
All right, she knows what she's doing, but what do I need to do in terms? Do I need to spin it around?
All you need to do is drink.
Just
Okay,
drink.
that's it. We don't do a lot of standing on ceremony here. You know, we can throw in a lot of convoluted adjectives if that's what you want.
I prefer to keep it simple myself.
There you go. Well, you know, one of the things I find, you go to a lot of wineries and they want to tell you what you're tasting. Quite frankly, I think that's a little presumptuous on my part. The second one is another Chardonnay that's a little lighter oaked and maybe with just a hint of Viognier and a drop of sugar, and its name is Unhitched. And the reason that I picked that one is that Linda and I, if she allows it, will celebrate 50 this year. Although she doesn't say celebrate, she says remember. So we're going to remember 50 this year. But like a lot of folks that have been married a long time, maybe not every year was
Right.
total wedded bliss. And occasionally, like when I took her to Africa for a 3-year tour one time, she used the word unhitched a lot, as in I'm going to get. So our second wine is called Unhitched Chardonnay. This particular wine is called Unhitched Chardonnay, and it's, I guess, a tribute to the fact that it hasn't happened yet. And I say yet, all right. She never tells me that I have anything but a 1-year lease. So what happens this year might not be what happens next year. This be a still hitched wife.
Come on in.
What I say, this
you
is.
Can pass through and give away. Fair enough.
What I say is, this is my last wife.
That's a good way of putting
Yeah,
it. That is
yeah.
a good way of putting it.
Well, we're about halfway through. I don't know. I bored them to death so far.
I bet.
What did I tell you?
I like the oyster
Or do
crackers.
you want to do a complete tasting?
I need to stand. So
Different
one of
from
you.
filming. I mean, you just want to do a little bit.
We'll do a little bit for the filming. How about that?
All right, too cool. Well, we're going to turn the page over because our
Okay.
reds and dessert wines are on this side.
Chapter 2.
Whoop, that one was already. Okay.
That's it. That shows you how much we're.
There you go.
Ready.
She's anxious. She's ready.
Well, the first red that we're going to have is our 100% Cabernet Franc.
Okay.
Cab Franc is one of the 5 Bordeaux grapes, and it's the grape that does the best in Virginia for us. It, year in and year out, does better than Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or some of the other Bordeaux grapes. This particular grape for us won a gold medal at the Boca Raton, South Florida wine competition recently, and there were only 5 golds given out in the competition. 3 of them were in California. 1 was in Washington State, and ours was the only gold on the East Coast. So,
Wow.
Even though I don't enter a lot of competitions, I don't dislike them quite as much as I used to anyway. Right. So our dessert wine then is our port, but the name port is now trademarked by the Portuguese, much like champagne has been trademarked by the French. So I had to come up with another name. You already indicated you're nautical. If it can't be port, you know, it must be starboard.
Brilliant. That is
Okay.
absolutely
Clever.
brilliant.
So it's starboard. I do have a few others, and you named one. I've got one on the counter up behind me. Maybe it's a little takeoff on some of the things I did for 31 years, but its name is Covert Cab.
Yeah.
What is unique about it is that it's a grape that I'm the first grower in Virginia to have. It's a grape called Crimson Cabernet, and it's a true botanical cross between our native Virginia grape Norton and Cabernet Sauvignon. And I have bottled as well only the second vintage of it ever bottled in the world. So it's getting us a fair amount of airplay. I kind of look around at our operation and what's going to make us stand out, and hopefully kind of being down home friendly is one, but
That's a big one.
we've got to have 2 or 3 things that are unique, and this being one of them. So we support a local humane society, and we often donate funds to it and so on. And when I released this wine, since it was unique, we ended up having an auction for the very first one. And by golly, we auctioned it off for $600. And
Wow.
it stunned us. By the time it got to be at $100 or $200 or $300, you know, holy moly, is this thing going to be worth that? But anyway, it turned out one of my really old good friends, his family bought it for him surreptitiously, and it's now been framed in a plaque and so on. And
that was for the Humane Society?
well, I donated the funds to the
Right,
Humane
right, that's
Society.
right.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
he was a compatriot of mine, however, so maybe the covert cab might have been meaningful for him as well. So we do have some other wines, but those are the crux of them. We do have a fun little peach wine that my brother lives near us, and he's got a little dog that's kind of our mascot. Her name is Gigi.
Now, is that who the pictures that you sent to me?
Yeah, that was Gigi.
And,
that was Gigi, and she was Miss November in the Virginia Wine Dog calendar that you can see up there last year.
Oh man,
And they actually came to us because she's got such a name in the community that they came to us to include her in the calendar. So I've made a little peach wine for her that I call Gigi Peachy. Made a vinegar for her, and we've also made a peach jelly, all named Gigi Peachy. So anyway,
I saw in one of the pictures you sent to me, I saw you holding her, and you have a full hazmat suit on, but she has nothing. I'm thinking,
well, she's
oh my
tough.
goodness, yeah,
She's tough.
she can take it. She can take it.
Well, actually, that is my whole spray outfit for the vineyard. But I was getting ready to go.
I was wondering if you had a secondary operation going on behind the scenes with the meth lab or something. This is an intense picture.
No, and I tell you, in this case, we were going in a parade, so that's why she was included. My bro has got a motorcycle, and he's just got a little seat on the back that he stuffs her in, and I often indicate to him, I really don't care if he lays down the bike, if as far as he's concerned, but he can't hurt Gigi. Obviously, I traveled for those 31 years, and every place that I went, I captured some money. I got current money, obviously, but I also tried to get historical money. So, as an example, I've got a Japanese peso from the Philippines. When the Japanese took over,
wow.
They actually printed money for a little while. I got a couple other bills in there that I was in a vault one time in Iran, and I've got a couple of uncirculated Russian bills that date back to the Tsar. So I've got those in the bar top. And I put Israel, Iran, and Iraq together, and they kind of got to talk to one another. So as I traveled over the years, I collected all this money. When I started out, I was very precise. I put it in a book, and I annotated in the amount and so on and so on. And after so many years, throw it in the book. And Linda would often say to me, "What are you going to do with it?" I said, "I don't know." Kind of like my foal babies. They haven't talked to me yet. Well, we got ready to do the bar thing, and most of the artifacts that you see in the winery here are, again, meaningful. We didn't go down to the local bazaar and, pick some stuff up. I got my grandfather's old saddle that was made for him in 1907 that my mom and uncle rode in, and that's the kind of thing that are displayed here. So we said the same thing for the bar top. It's, let's make it unique. Let's make it something that depicts our life. So I put the bills and some of the coins in the bar top of the places that we've lived and visited around the world. I started off trying to put them by area or geographical area. That didn't work because most of the bills are different size and so on. So they're pretty jumbled up in the bar top. And the coincidental thing is that if you look at the bar top, there's only one section that's got several coins in it. And I ran out of bills, and I just had, and I literally, in other words, had just the right amount of bills for the whole bar top. I used up every bit of my money in the bar top, and that part wasn't pre-planned. So if you want to ask about countries, I've got a map on the wall right around the corner, and I've got it annotated with dots. and it's color-coded. The places that we've lived, and the yellow dots are primarily where I've visited over the years due to work. I've literally traveled all over the world with the exception of South America. There's a reason why I wasn't in South America that I'll talk about off camera.
Okay, fair enough.
But virtually the rest of the world is pretty well covered in dots of some color anyway. So you can look at that maybe later and get an idea of the places we've lived and visited.
So how did you and Linda meet over 50 years
Well,
ago?
I met her at age 13. She, I like to say she's much older, but of course you know that's not true. I was actually on the wrestling team with her brother, and in high school, and her brother gave her explicit directions not to have anything to do with me. And of course, that's probably all that she needed.
Now, was he bigger than you at the time?
I'm sorry?
The brother, was he bigger than you at the time?
No, I was 155, he was 147, so I could kick his butt.
Yeah,
So,
you had him. You had him.
I had him, yeah, I had him. But, she was 13. Well, I'm a whole 17 at that point, so clearly I'm not giving her any look at all. But I did go away in the Navy, as I talked about earlier, and came back ostensibly looking for him. She was a little bit older and maybe worthwhile looking at this point. So. We are so absolutely honored and pleased to have Robbie here today. I don't have to tell you guys that he is one of the most dynamic performers in the area, and to get him here on this special day for us on our 3rd year anniversary is a real honor. Thank you so much for that. Look, he's coming here and he's going to play his heart out. He's got some CDs over here that I hope you folks leave with. I got a little tip bucket here that, this man is independently wealthy, but he might need some gas to get home with today. So think of him here today. Buy some of his CDs. We're not going to be sitting in our seats very long. I know that because this man can play. And thank you, Robbie. Thank you so much.
I've been trying to make it on my own, finding out what really is going on. Sitting here, wondering what's to come.
Alright, folks, we're going to officially cut our 3rd year anniversary cake.
Won't be long till something's gonna change. Maybe something's even gonna come my way. Just sit back, relax, let it roll. Wait before too long, it'll take its toll. Right now